It's in a glass.
Okay, here's my audience. Alright. Welcome to the beginning of fall. You know what that means? It's almost winter. That means you have to bust out your snurfers or your surfboards on snow. Did you know that that's what surfboards were originally called? In the early 60s, it was one of the earliest manufactured snowboards made by Sherman Poppin. Basically, he tied together two pairs of skis and hoped for the best. From then on, snowboarding has just evolved in so many crazy ways, going from the wooden winter stick by Dmitry Milovich, all the way to the first modern ski technology in a snowboard by Jake Burton, which included a PTEX base. From then on, the materials, the technologies, um, the ideas that have been put into snowboards is just mind-blowing. All sorts of these materials, the tech that go into this just create for so many different snowboards and types and styles of snowboarding. We need those because there are so many different types and styles that we need to morph into. So because of all these styles, you have to figure out what type of board you need. So let's pretend that you're in my shop and I'm taking you on a journey of the different types and styles of snowboarding in order to choose the snowboard for you. There are three different main types of snowboarding styles. There's all mountain, there's freestyle, and there's big mountain. All mountain riding is basically when you're sticking to groomed slopes, going straight down the hill, having fun, making your turns, you're having a blast. Different types of boards you need for this style is maybe a little bit stiffer of a board, maybe head to chin height, and then that'll get you what you need. The second type is freestyle, jibbing, or park. Jibbing is basically the act of using your board on a man-made or natural feature such as a log, a rail, a box, something like that. The different boards you need for a freestyle, jibbing, or a park board is maybe a shorter board and it's going to have a lot more flex in it because if you want to like pop up on one foot, do anything like that, you need the flex in that board. The third type is a big mountain or a powder board. It's going to be a lot longer, it's going to be stiffer so that you can gain more control and your turns can be a little bit smoother at higher speeds. So after we figured out what style you are, maybe you're all mountain, maybe you like to be a park rat, maybe you just heli ski and you're just going down the biggest mountain possible. Now we have to figure out what type of board and what type of shape you need. There's three different types of shapes, and along with those shapes come those different styles, come the different boards you're going to need for those styles of snowboarding. So the first one is positive camber. Basically what a positive camber board looks like is it looks like this. It's got a slight bow underfoot or in between your feet, and then it slowly goes out on the outsides. Basically this allows for more pop and more control because there's 2 points of contact with the snow. You've got the front edge and the side and the back edge. Remember what I said about the big mountain? When you're going down that mountain and you make a curve, those 2 contact points give you more stability, especially at higher speeds. The one thing about it is if you're maybe more of a beginner, you tend to catch an edge a lot more, and that's when you get hurt. The second type of shape of board there is, it's a reverse camber or a rocker. That's what most people call it these days. The rocker is this guy. It's very straightforward. It's basically that one solid bow from underfoot to each tip and tail. The rocker is a lot more forgiving in snow, so if you're more of a beginner, this allows you not to catch an edge as much. It's also a lot more flexy. So you'll see a lot more jibbers or park riders riding more of a rocker board because it's got a little bit more forgiveness, and you can ride switch and you can ride normal. Just let as your switch is when you go the opposite direction of what you normally ride. The third is a mixed camber. So basically you can take a positive camber and mix it with the rockers. So what you see here is basically you have camber underfoot or in between, rocker underfoot, and then it basically cambers back out. What this is doing is it gives you that traction, it gives you that stability of a camber board, but it gives you a little bit more float and that flexiness of a camber board. And then the opposite would be rocker underfoot, camber in between, which gives you a lot more pop, but a little bit more flex as well with those mixed cambers. Um, you're going to find a lot more park riders riding a rocker board. You're going to find a lot more of a downhill powder board riding a camber board, and you're going to find more of an all mountain being in those mix because you get to kind of mix each one of those styles. Each stance, or I'm sorry, getting ahead of myself. So now, from each of the shapes and styles, and the other things that come along with that are different texts and technologies that go along with those shapes and styles. There's two different types of bases that you could have with the snowboard. Sintered or extruded. A sintered base runs along more with all mountain and powder boards because what happens is there's actually pores in a sintered base. So what happens when you wax a board, which makes you go faster, when you heat up the base of the board, it opens up these pores and allows the wax to go into it. When you have an extruded base, it's one solid piece that's not porous. That's harder, so you'll see a lot more park riders and jibbers using an extruded base because it's going to be more durable and you don't have to wax it. Therefore, you're using a little bit more to beat it up and play a little bit more. Another one is the edge materials. A softer edge is going to be better for a park rider or a jibber because they're not going to want the traction and the harshness of that, versus a harder edge is going to be for somebody who's in more downhill mountain, and they want that stability so that again you're more stable at higher speeds. The flex of the board is one of the last things that makes a huge difference in what style. I've talked about it a little bit. If you're going to want a downhill big mountain board, it's going to be a little bit stiffer, and a park board you're going to want it with a little bit more flex. So yeah, whether or not you're chilling with some friends on the slope, getting neck deep in POW, or hitting some of those big jumps, there's so many different things that goes into choosing a snowboard and styles that you ride. So thank you very much for listening.